Everybody, welcome to episode 44 of the Jiu Jitsu Dummies podcast. Can you believe it, Bo?
44. Quattro.
Getting near 50.
44.
Love it.
Wow.
We are sponsored by Fightback CBD. Get 20% off your CBD order at fightbackcbd.com with code JJD. My name is Milton Campus. I'm a purple belt at a Fight Sports Coral Springs. You can check me out on Instagram at Uncle Milty BJJ. Me and Bo with you here today. Say hello, Bo.
What's up, everybody?
Joining us in a few minutes is welterweight champion, fight to win welterweight champion Elisabeth Clay. So stick around, everybody. Okay. Huge shout out to Flow and Roll at Flow_N_roll on Instagram. Get 20% off your online t-shirt, rash guard, or gi order with code JJD at flowandroll.com. Got something for you, Bo.
Huh?
Oh, t-shirts. Bo loves t-shirts. Ooh.
Cool.
Right.
You know, people.
DD214.
So you know, a couple of people commented on my DD214 shirt, the other one.
Yeah.
It's a nice shirt, but they commented like, "What's that? What does that mean?" So it's.
I had a good
it generates attention.
Yeah. I'm not going to butcher it again like I did last episode, but somebody actually on our last episode with Eli Knight. Mm-hmm. Somebody commented, because we talked a little bit about it, somebody commented with a good description of what the DD214 is. So I'll check it out. You can see the explanation there, or you can Google it. DD214 Fightwear at DD214_Fightwear. Gear for the war on PTSD. Get 15% off your online order at DD214BJJ.com. Please check out their new Soul Armor Memorial Day gi that's coming out soon. The liner in the gi is composed of the names of fallen soldiers. So you can check it out. I'm putting the link in the bio till it launches. All right. In the spirit of our veteran listeners and supporters, Warriors Next Adventure. All right. They're a veteran and they're a veteran nonprofit. They're filming a documentary right now, PTSD versus Jiu Jitsu. They're traveling the country for 50 days, April through June. They had a few hiccups that we talked about on the last episode. Mm-hmm. They had to replace the engine in their bus already. They had a little fire. Wasn't too bad. Saw the picture. Wasn't too bad. But
next will be a pterodactyl attacks the bus and a T-Rex.
So they could definitely use our help, everybody. Excuse me. Check out the website, which is warriorsnextadventure.com. Click the PTSD versus Jiu-Jitsu tab. You'll see all the tour dates, all the places that they're going to be, the locations where you can come out and be part of filming. Obviously, donate if you can. They could use the help. They're on the road as we speak, all right? We also want to thank Retro Grappler. We're going to be collaborating with Chris on some new podcast designs. Love the first mic tee. Thank you very much, Chris. Check him out at Retro Grappler Shop on Instagram and retrograppler.com. He's got some incredible designs. He's got rash guards, Muay Thai shorts, different fight gear, really cool stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share wherever you're watching or listening. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to click the bell on our page. I love my buddies. I got them back.
Weren't they the buzz?
Don't forget to click the bell on our page to get notifications each time we launch a new video. So we appreciate you guys. All right. Ready? Good?
Get her in here.
All right.
Get her on here because we can't get
let's
anybody
get. I say
in
here. Let's get Elisabeth here.
All right.
In here, on here, here. Let's get her on this.
To this location.
Yes, right
in
here.
Spirit.
All right. Let's do this. All right, everybody. Joining us today is Fight to Win welterweight champion Elisabeth Clay. Welcome, Elisabeth. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Where are you coming to us from? Are you home?
Yeah, I'm home right now. I'm in Minnesota, California right now.
Okay, Cali. All right. You got to be traveling. What? Now that the pandemic's over, right? You traveling most weekends?
Yeah, most weekends I'm gone. Sometimes I'll have a couple that I'm not, and those are nice. For the most part, I'm gone almost every weekend.
Yeah, we shoot on the weekend, so I'm just happy to like when we got the next 2 weekends we have off. We're shooting 2 today. We did shoot early in the day with Kendall Roosing, and so we won't shoot for the next 2 weeks, but we try to do maybe like 3 to 4 episodes a month now. So we just moved to a Miami studio. So if you're ever in Miami. The original.
I'm next weekend.
Everybody's telling me next week. I'm like, we're not shooting. Our original platform was really like we had everybody come into the studio, which Corona put a stop to that. But we would be in with kind of a bunch of training partners, and then we'd have our guests come in. So Corona kicked our butts. So we went to kind of the interview platform like this. But I'm super excited with being in the new studio. We'll be able to get back to having people come in and shoot the shit about jiu-jitsu, and it's a little bit more personal and more fun. But we'll make the most of this, so we'll do it this way for now. So how was your Corona time off? Did it completely drive you nuts, or did you?
I didn't train for about 2 months there at all. No, I did have a little bit of time. No, for about 2 months there, actually, I wasn't training at all. I was going crazy. I was running like 6. I hate running. I was running like 6 miles a day.
Oh, wow.
I was lifting every day. I was doing yoga, like anything I could do to somewhat keep my mind busy. Luckily, I had like one of my my Muay Thai instructors. So I was doing Muay Thai like 3-4 times a week. Anything I could do to just kind of move and stay active. But I went a little crazy there.
So do you train at Aries BJJ, correct?
Yeah.
Do you coach there as well?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I coach kids and then some in the no-gi.
Okay. So how long have you been training total? Tell us how you got started in jiu-jitsu, or I'm not sure did you ever train any other martial arts?
Not martial. I've done Muay Thai on and off, probably combined about 4 years is what I would say. But I was a gymnast on and off for about 10 years. All my older siblings were elite gymnasts, so that's kind of what I grew up in. And then moving to Alaska, they have gymnastics, but it's not very good. So it just wasn't getting, like, the coaching was good because it was actually my sister coaching. But they just weren't giving me hours that were needed to really go anywhere with it. So I decided to quit because I wasn't going to do something that I couldn't really go anywhere with it. And I think I was about 11 when I quit. And I started training jiu-jitsu like right as I turned 12. So it was in 2012. So I was off for probably about 6 months to a year of not having a sport, which growing up doing sports and like doing them super competitively and being in that environment, even if I wasn't the one competing, like all my siblings were, I was always at like gymnastics meets, like every weekend. So then not having that was really hard for me. And then just tried jiu-jitsu, and immediately I was training 5 days a week. One of the days my mom wouldn't drive me in. So I got up at like 7 a.m. and I was homeschooled. So I brought my school with me. I go to college with my older siblings. And my sister was still coaching. So I go to work with her just so that I could train at like 4 and 5 p.m. at night.
Wow.
So that I could train 5 days a week.
Wow. So Alaska, what's the story there? Is it, did your entire family live in Alaska? Where did you grow up? There, here?
So I'm originally from Texas. I lived in Texas until I was about 8, moved to Oklahoma for about 2 years. And then some stuff happened with my family. If anybody knows anything about Bartlesville, it's a oil field town basically. And in about 2008, 2009, all the oil crashed. And so that town just basically died. So because of that, my dad got laid off, all that stuff. And basically, he'd always wanted to go back to Alaska. His bio family goes back over 100 years. And so it was just kind of one of those things like, screw it, let's go up to Alaska, and moved there. And I was 10 when we moved there, and I lived there for about 10 years outside of a stint in 2018, where I lived here in California, actually, for about 7 months.
So jiu-jitsu started when you got back?
In Alaska.
In Alaska too?
In Alaska.
Big BJJ scene, huh?
It's, if you can get the work together, it's not bad, obviously. Like I won the trials on it. I won worlds multiple times on it. Cause I started training. Yeah. No, because I started training in 2012, and I trained purely in Alaska from 2012 to mid 2018. And then I moved to California, where I trained for about 7 months, Aries. And I was an Aries affiliate up in Alaska. So I've been Aries for about 5 years. Trained here for about 7 months. And then I moved back up to Alaska to help with my family. And I didn't move back to California until last July in 2020.
Okay. And I was doing a little research. I was listening to you on another podcast. Are you 20 years old right now?
Yeah, I'm 20.
Baby, I'm 47. I get to call you back. I'm going to be 48. You're a baby. You're so...
I am.
I have children older. I have a daughter older than you. Wow. So you're I mean, there's so much more to come. I mean, you're so young, even for jiu-jitsu. I mean, there's so much ahead of you.
Yeah, no, it's just starting out. I just got my black belt last November. So technically this is actually my first year as the black belt. So 20 first year as a black belt. I've done a lot, but I have a lot more to come.
You got to kind of like, it's such a weird year too. I mean, with Corona,
yeah,
you lost so much of, when did really, I guess, right around the time like Third Coast Grappling started doing their events, and then Fight to Win started up right after that, right? Like Third Coast, I think they did their like four, maybe what was it, 4 or 5, like in one, like boom, 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 like back to back, and then then Fight to Win came in, and they haven't stopped. So really didn't lose the whole year, but like half of a year, right?
I lost my whole brown belt year basically.
Did you? Oh wow.
So I only got to compete once as a brown belt. So I got Nogi Worlds as a brown belt, and I just got my brown belt literally like 3 weeks before. I won double gold there, all submissions. And then we were training for Pan Ams. I had already flown from Alaska to Arizona to go for the Pan Ams camp. We were literally training when we were looking at it and got the news that Pans was for sure canceled. So that was in like March. And then I didn't compete again until June. And when I competed in June, I was still a brown belt, but I was fighting black belts. So like all my fights with like Luisa Montero, Gabby, all of those fights, like I was still a brown belt, but it was at black belt. So even though like, yeah, I'm fighting, I still kind of like lost that brown belt year. The only time I got to compete like as a brown belt with brown belts was Nogi Worlds, like 3 weeks after I got my brown belt.
Wow. That's kind of crazy. I mean, it's just obviously a crazy year for everyone, but when you think about just this whole competition scene as it relates to jiu-jitsu, I mean, it's like a dagger through the heart of so many people like getting prepared. Like people that don't know, you've got ADCC trials, you've got ADCC. I mean, there's just so much going on. And then, for like, you're so used to having the Fight to Wins. It's just like, yeah, there's a Fight to Win on every other week. And then boom, nothing. I used to look at the schedule. I have an app, look at the schedule, UFC and the Flow Grappling, like gone, nothing for just nothing. Months on end. It's horrible. So, okay. So now you're back into the swing of things. When's your next competition? What's next for you? What's coming up?
So I have a Fight to Win next weekend. I'm fighting Andres Asincha, and then I have Nogi Pans May 15th and 16th. Okay. So those are my next 2 coming up.
Okay. Now, again, doing my research. Now you have a knee injury, something that's kind of ongoing, right? Tell me about your knee injury. How does that affect your training? Is it just kind of like, just got to train with it?
So when I first injured my knee, I've been dealing with really bad bursitis on and off. Actually, like right before I won ADCC trials, I went in for my knee that previous like November, I want to say, and then I won the trials. I think that was like in April. So my knee been bugging me, but I've been having some rib injuries and stuff like that. Like it wasn't a big deal. It was just part of like training that hard, and then I was cutting a lot of weight. So won the trials, and then went and was training. And then I actually got, I was doing some stand up, getting ready for ADCC. I was probably about it was less than 6 weeks out, but I think it had at least been 4 weeks out before. So it was coming up really close. And honestly, it might've even been a little bit closer than that. And was training, and I got my right leg crossed up over my left, and I got pushed back on it, and my knee popped. Whatever, it sucks, no big deal. I kept training, and then I ended up going, and I was rolling with one of the guys, and he decided, knowing I had a knee injury, to rip up on my heel. And this is like a month out from ADCC. I just turned 17. I freaking blew about going to ADCC, and he pulled up on it. And I still kept trying to train, but it was so bad that my knee I'd be put in lockdown, and my knee, like, it wasn't like it hurt. If it just hurt, it wouldn't have been a big deal. Like I would have still gone and competed. But my knee was popping out of place. Like I would walk and my knee would pop backwards. And so I ended up like going in and getting it looked at before I even camped. Like I was still dieting, was still like, I don't care, I'm going to go, but I needed to go see, I went to go see a surgeon, and went in to go look at my knee. And basically I partially torn my PCL, but it was pretty torn. If You guys don't know anything about it. Most people tear the ACL, right? And everybody says the ACL is really strong. Your PCLs is double the thickness of your ACL.
Yeah.
It's double the thickness. That's supposed to be the ligament that like you don't tear, right? It's the one that goes, it's straight on the knee and it keeps your knee from popping backwards. So I'd torn it at least halfway. And then he's like, that's pretty bad. And then he's like, and I'm looking at your knee. You've stretched out all the other ligaments. So your knee's acting like it's fully blown. You've ruptured all the little sacs in there that hold all the fluid, and half your patellar tendon is gone. Like, I don't know if it was just from impact, and it wasn't like it just snapped, because a lot of times it'll snap. But I actually, like, looking in the MRI, it's nasty. You don't even need to know to look at MRIs. You can see like all around it. It was just like eaten away at, I guess from repetitive damage or whatever. Been an athlete my whole life. Like, it's not, I don't know what it's from, but it was from something. So going to that, and basically he's like, so nothing's actually fully torn in your knee, because of the patellar tendon being, the PCL being stretched out, the patellar tendon being done, you have no padding on your knee. So when you hit it, it's going to swell. All the swelling goes straight down. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was the fact that the PCL was torn and all the other ligaments were stretched out. So there was nothing keeping my knee in place. It was just popping out of place all the time. And when I say popping back, I mean like not just going straight, like totally popping backwards. Like, you see those videos where people land and their knee goes backwards. Yeah. That was me walking.
Wow.
And so he's like, listen, you can go compete if you want, but if you compete, you're not just gonna finish tearing the PCL. Everything else in your knee is so damaged, you're gonna shred your knee. You're gonna need me to replace everything. And if I have to replace everything, I'm giving you a full knee replacement at 17. And he's like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're an athlete, but I'm telling you right now, if you go and compete, you've ruined your career. It's done. You'll get this one.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay. And he's like, here's a full ACL brace because it'll keep you from popping your knee backwards. I know you're probably not going to listen to me because you're an athlete, and athletes don't listen. He's like, but I'm telling you right now, if I have to do surgery on this knee, it's not going to be good. Even if I only have to replace the PCL, because they have to drill through the bone and it rubs. So you only get 2 surgeries out of that before they've destroyed that bone. Once you destroy the bone, you got to replace the whole thing. So he's like, with as hard as you are on your knees, normally you get about 10 years out of each surgery. You'll get about 5. He's like, that'll put you at about 27 needing a full knee replacement. So I didn't end up having surgery for that reason, because he's like, I don't want to do surgery on it, because again, if I do surgery on it now, I'll ruin your career. So I ended up basically getting handed a metal knee brace to go wear and not to pop it backwards, and him told, I don't know if it's going to heal or not, but I know if I touch that knee, it's gone. So I need you to do a lot of rehab on it. I need you to not hyperextend this knee. And when you tear something else, come back and I'll fix it, is basically what I was told at 17, less than a month out from ADCC.
Wow.
So that was rough. I ended up having to wear that brace for at least a month straight, 24/7, like sleeping, everything. So if I popped that back, it was really bad. And then I slowly got to the point that I would and I'm not kidding, like 5 minutes, I would walk without it and then I have to put it right back on. So if my legs started getting tired, then I risked it popping backwards. So that's in like September. End up slowly rehabbing it. And I'm still I'm not training the whole time, but I'm still in the gym the whole time. I'm still teaching. I only missed 1 class that I was supposed to be teaching. And I'm in teaching giant metal knee brace, all the kids whacking it with their heads and running into it. And you know how kids go. Running, punk. Dude, I think every day I had at least one kid that had a giant goose egg on their head because they'd run straight in, and you could see it. I wear on the outside of my pants. Every single time. So ended up being able to do a little bit of rehab, and then Nogi Worlds came up, and I really wanted to compete Nogi Worlds. I had just started training without the metal knee brace, so I ended up just going and watching. And then the following February, I was able to compete in my first competition again, which was Atlanta Open. And then I won double gold there. And then I went and did Pans and I won double gold there. But at that point, even the following June when I was going to compete Worlds, that's when I first flew down to train with the guys at Aries at like the headquarters. My knee was still so bad in between rounds. I'm having to shake my knee out because it hurts so bad. It's finally just now gotten to the point. So what are we? 3.5 years, almost 4 years after, just now gotten to the point now that I don't have that. So it definitely still bothers me sometimes, but it's one of those that it's almost like an old injury now. So it's not so much, as long as I'm not like stupid with it.
Does it still bend backwards? It still does.
it bends back. If I put both my knees side by side and bend them back, you can see a difference. I'll do that when people are like, oh, which one's your knee that's hurt? I was like, here, let me show you this. I have no feeling in that knee. So I don't know what I did when I tore it. But like when I'm getting knee barred, it feels no different when I'm getting knee barred versus when my leg is just straight, except I can literally feel everything like catching and pulling, but there's no pain. Oh. So I seriously damaged some nerves in there.
Where did you bury the body? The body of the guy that did that popped it and it was injured. Where did you bury him?
Bro, he's still alive. I didn't roll with him for almost 2 years though. I was so mad, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I'm like, dude, like that's not something you can say sorry for. Like, I was 17, a blue belt going to ADCC. The next time when I actually get to compete ADCC for the first time, I'll be a black belt. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, it's still a big deal, but that's not the same thing. Like, I was 17 and a blue belt. I'm going to be like 21, 22 and a black belt going. And like, yes, it's still young. It's impressive getting to go at all and keep that. Like, it's a big thing. But there's a huge difference. Like, there's no amount of sorry that can make up for that, especially when it's where he ripped it up. It wasn't like when I was doing stand-up and it got popped, and that was straight up an accident. Like, I wasn't upset about that at all. Like, I was upset my knee was hurt, but I wasn't upset at the person that did it. It was one of those things that he purely just didn't want to lose and decided to grab my leg and rip it as hard as he could, not even in a submission. And so it was one of those, and I'm like, you can't say sorry for that when it wasn't an accident. Like, if it was an accident, because like injuries happen, how many people pull out of big competitions because they got hurt? It happens. And it happens just purely out of accident. That's one thing. It's another thing to do it just because your ego is getting involved in it. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, sometimes I'll see him and I'll go to say something and I'm like, I'm still mad at you. It's been years later. That is not something that's just going to go.
Yeah.
And like, I've had like AC joint separations, like before competitions, and been like, bro, like that was an accident. It was a pure accident. Like, I don't care. You're good. Like, it sucks that it's messed up, but I'm not mad about it. But it was one of those that I'm like, dude, like you were just being stupid. Like, that's not even one of those that I can brush off as like an accident. I was just you having a huge ego.
What belt was he at? You were at blue. What belt was that person at that time?
I think he was another blue belt.
Okay.
But I like, okay, ego. Yeah, I'm a female. I'm a blue belt, ego. But like, bro, I'm going to ADCC. Come on. Like, You can't like shred my knee like in a month. Like after I compete, when I come back now, you can shred my knee, but like not right now. And,
I'm at purple on the cusp of brown. And I still talk about it a lot, and I talk about it to remind myself. You still have ego at purple belt. There's still sometimes you're training, right? I think you're always going to have an ego, but knowing when, okay, I'm just going to take the L on this, and it not being it's not a big deal. You're not training. It is not the ADCC. This is training. You're supposed to be able to lose, right? We all say you don't lose, you learn.
Well, you know you hate losing. So like, there's a time and a place if you want to have a big ego. Like, of course I don't ever want my knee shredded, but like, don't do it right before a huge competition. Like, that's one of those things that like, regardless, you should be like, even if let's say I was being stupid, like you should be looking out for me. I'm going to something like this. As a training partner of someone, especially if you're not going to compete at the same thing, like part of your job is to look out for your training partners as well. And that's the thing that like, if I have some of my teammates, let's say they're training for a super fight coming up and I'm not doing it, I'm going to train hard and to push you. Yes. But I'm also going to be like, half of it's going to be me looking out for you to make sure you're not getting hurt. And I'm not going to rip on something, even if I have it dead to rights. If you're not tapping, I'm going to let it go because it's just not worth hurting you right before something. Now, if I'm fighting as well, then it's different because I need to have that as well. But even then, like, if you're just not tapping, I might even let go then because it's just not worth like taking you out of the competition for one round. Like, it's a round, maybe my ego's involved in it or your ego's involved in it. Like, it's not worth it for one round to then take you out of something that's going to mean like so much more. That's actually like, that means something. Nobody's paying you for that round.
Yeah.
They're paying you when you go to like do events or stuff like that.
I wound up, I thought it was completely torn. Actually it wound up being sprains, ACL, MCL sprain. The day before, it was a Sunday training, open mat. Day before I was going into quarantining for work. So 9 months out, it was Corona anyway. My gym was open. I could have, I probably would have trained, kept me home anyway. And then when I came back, having an injury like that made me so much more conscious of the way I rolled with my training partners.
Yeah.
It was, it's kind of a little bit of a joke, but it's serious when I have a training partner who is a barber, and he always has his hand taped that he uses the shears with. And I'll always jokingly say, which hand is it? Because he knows I love to wrist lock him. And so, but I'll always ask him, which hand is it? Because I don't want to wrist lock that. Like, as a joke, as right before we're gonna roll, like, I'm going to wrist lock you. So, so I joke with him every once in a while like that. So, but I'm very, very conscious of not only, when you train with people enough, you know who's got the back injury, you know who's got the knee, you know who blew this out, who blew that out, so you're very conscious. And look, I'm not training with people that are going to ADC other than coaches maybe, but my other training partners, nobody's going to ADCC anytime soon. But I'm so conscious of it. Again, the ego creeps in every once in a while, but now I really, really do understand it as the injured person. And every once in a while, I do put like a bigger knee brace. It's kind of like rubber and plastic on the sides, but the rubber and plastic covers the metal. So I'll have, sometimes I have to if I want to train, I have to put it on. So I don't want that kind of side to side wiggle every once in a while. Still comes in. So I do wear it, and I usually and I tell them, because I don't want them to get hurt on the brace, I'll just give it a little knock, like, hey, this is the knee. Fair warning, you do something stupid on that side and you hurt yourself. That's like knee people in the face by accident and stuff like that. But I'm like, I'm conscious of that as well. But yet, having an injury like that now that I've come back, I'm just like very super conscious. And I'm not like out for blood like I think I was before the pandemic. Everything had to be a finish and, maybe go a little extra harder, maybe a little crank across the face. Now and at Purple Belt, like, I'm talking about my own experience, but I kind of feel like I've seen other people like me that I train with, where that's where the ego started to kind of creep out a little bit. It just kind of goes away. Purple, you're going to get your brown. You're looked at differently. Different things are expected of you. So, I mean, look, at least for me, that's the way it's been. But I'm definitely, a much better training partner than I was before. And I don't know. See if you see, like, I'm about 5'10", 240. So I'm usually one of the bigger guys in class. Like I'm the guy in the corner that nobody wants to roll with, because most of my training partners are under 200 pounds. So I'm that guy. So I have to be a lot nicer now if I even want anybody to roll with me most times. So
and there's also go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
There's also that difference between being like, okay, this round's going to be hard. We're going as hard as we can versus like every day. Like, if you're going to go 100%, let me know beforehand so I know to protect myself as well. Yeah. And I just think that's something that should be discussed.
Oh, I absolutely know. Like my coach has been, especially with, kind of injuries recently in the gym, he's very conscious of telling people, like, we're going to flow. This is a flow round. If I see you doing this, I'm not going to like it. But he's done that in the past, and I might train with somebody and we look at each other, we're like, we're not gonna flow, right? Like you know who's gonna. Yeah,
you know who's gonna do it.
Now it's like, no, I don't care if you know anything. Everybody's flowing. At least the first round, it's always a flow round. Yeah. And then it's like, all right, then go crazy if you need to. But he's been very. I've just noticed it more in my coach. He's kind of watching that a little bit more. I think we've had just kind of just a lot of small injuries recently, and listen, it's still a business. And if your students are getting hurt, not coming in, not only are they not bringing in their friend, but they're not coming back, So, yeah. So I was going to ask. What I was going to ask was, okay, you're a competitor, but are you also a fan? I always like to know, like, are you watching Flow Grappling in your downtime? Are you watching all the events? Are you going to be watching today, watching later, or are you just like, I'll do it, but I'm not like glued to my phone or to the app?
I'm definitely not the one that's glued to my phone or the app. If there are like a couple people fighting that there's like someone I want to watch, I'll tune in for those fights specifically. But I would say I'm more of a casual fan. Like, if somebody's like has the event on, like, oh, BJJ Stars is on, we're gonna have everyone over, like, I'll be over for that then, and I'll be watching it. But I'm definitely not like you definitely have the people that like don't watch it at all. I wouldn't say I don't watch it at all. I definitely tune into some stuff, but it's definitely more like a casual fan and someone that's like Samir, one of my professors. He's so glued to it. He's always watching stuff. He's always studying everything. I'm like, dude, I don't have the attention span for that. I'm the person at Worlds that's on my phone. I'll watch the highlights on my phone, but I'm not sitting there watching all the matches. Unless it's like one of my teammates, like a semifinals, a finals match, like something like that, then I'm watching it, or I'm like, oh, this is one person I want to watch. But I'm 100% that person that I'm on my phone, on the IBJJF page to see the highlights, because I'm not going to sit there and watch the whole thing.
Not even the videos. You're just on the page for the updates. You're like, oh, okay, that's nice. They won.
No, not even like the highlights. I watch videos, and this is me watching it. People hate watching jiu-jitsu videos with me because I sit and I scroll through to the good parts. They're sitting there for a while. I'll scroll through to the action, and then I'll back it up about 15 seconds to see how the action started, and then I'll watch from there. And then even if there's action, if it's the same thing, I skip through again, and when it's something different, I go back about 15 seconds to see how it started going different. That's me watching videos. When people are sitting there and they're like glued, and they're watching a whole like 10-minute match from beginning to end, unless it's like somebody I really want to watch, then I can watch the whole thing. But I can't watch every video like that, and everybody's watching it. I'm like, bro. Or people be like, man, did you see this match? And I'm like, I can be watching the match, and I'm not watching the matches. Even if I'm not on my phone, I like bounce around the mats because I'm like, oh, that one's boring. I'll bounce around to this mat. I'll bounce around to that one. And people are like, hey, did you watch that? And I was like, no, I started watching it, and then I went to that mat, and I didn't watch any of it.
So I'm new to the kind of the flow grappling, the fight to wins, just in the last year. We were doing the podcast. We started, we were kind of developed a relationship with one of the smaller organizations, and we were, oh, hey, listen, we'll hook you up with this guy that's fighting and get him on the show. And then I really started to, I saw the highlights, saw the Instagram, saw the one match. And then I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to, invest in flow grappling. I guess I'll get I'll pay the money. And then just got really into it. So much so, I can't watch everyone because my wife would freaking kill me. It's bad enough that I do jiu-jitsu and then I do the podcast. Saturday is day 6 of my work week. But when she's not at home, or if my daughter and my wife tie up the TV, I have one of these, like there's a monitor. You see the monitor over my shoulder.
Mm-hmm, yep.
We used to shoot in my house, so they're on rollers. So I'd roll one next to the TV. I'd put a headset on, so I'd be watching, like they'd be watching Grey's Anatomy or whatever. Uh-huh. And I've got like the Flow Grappling app on the TV on this other one. And sometimes they've come home. I'm a big UFC fan. That's where I really found my love of jiu-jitsu. I'd have the regular TV on with my monitor next to the, so Flow Grappling's on over here, UFC's on over here. Like tonight might be one of those nights if they're, I don't know if they're what they're watching tonight, but this is like a night where I really do want to see the UFC fights. And, I do want to see, Wagner, I'm a fight sports, trainer at Fight Sports in Coral Springs, Florida. So got to watch Wagner because they'll be talking about it, in our groups and stuff. I'm not training because I have a rib injury, so I won't be in there tomorrow. But everyone's going to be talking about it, so I can't miss that, But yeah, I'm becoming that fan. But there's so many competitors. UFC. There are 13 fights on tonight. Were they like 26 on a fight to win? It's like double that, right?
There's so many.
From the kids through the all the way to the main event. That's just. Time. It's a lot. That's a big investment in just not only brain power, time, but the brain power. And then I can't remember everybody,
Oh, I can't remember anything. That's the thing. I just don't have that attention span, and I get bored. That's the problem. It's like I don't even focus during instruction. Like I'm looking, and I'm looking there, and I'm looking, and literally sometimes Samir will look over at me, and he's like, "Liz, like what?" He's like, you're looking, but you're not paying attention. I'm like, I'm trying, but I can't. I start zoning out. I've got about maybe, some people are, I got a good 10 minutes. I think I got a good 2 minutes. I got 2 minutes for you to explain it well and not talk forever. But he even knows. I'll literally go through and I'm like, Samir, can you show it one more time and just show it? And then I can pick it up and we're good. Or I'll be like, hey, come over here real quick. Walk me through it once and I've got it. Easy. I can detail it. I don't even need you to give me all the details. Just walk me through the basics, right? Easy. But I can't, I just don't, I might be slightly like ADD or ADHD. I cannot focus to save my life. Bro. And they just took down all the, we had a paper on the wall still, and they just took that down off the windows today.
See?
And I told Samir, I
The
told Sydney,
secret
I was like,
training.
it's gonna be worse.
Wait a minute. Go back. You said there was no secret training. Paper on the windows?
I did it for 2 months. For 2 months, I did it.
Oh, you did?
At the very beginning. At the very beginning, I didn't get to train. Now I have
found
it.
you out. We found you out.
But they
Lied to
just
us.
took all of it down, and I was like, you thought it was bad before me focusing. You have any idea how much worse it's gonna get? Now I actually have something to stare at. I'm not just staring at nothing.
They put
Like,
tint.
there ain't no way I'm focusing now.
My gym went with tint. Went with really nice dark tint on the windows. That's how they did it. But I'm like that too. You know what? I found my trick of, because I'm a detailed person. I really do have to watch and like walk around and see where a foot is when my instructor's doing something. But every once in a while, it's been a long day and I'm just zoned out. And I'm just there to I just want to roll. So I just find that training partner that I always know is like the technical person. Yeah. And I'll just be like, okay, you go first. Drop down on that. You go first. And then like, okay, all right, I got it now. Because if somebody's doing it on me, it's a little bit, okay, now I know what we're doing.
Yeah, same. No, the worst
I'm never
part
that
is
guy,
when,
though. I'm never the guy. I'm never the partner that somebody uses like that.
No, everyone, they'll be asking because, one of the black belts, whatever, I'll literally have like the lower belts. They'll be like, hey, Liz, like, what are we doing? And I'll be like, hang on, give me 1 second. I'll go look at someone else. And then I can detail it from there. Like, I know the details. I just don't know what we're doing. And I'll go through and then I can detail it. And I've had them before be like, did you straight up just watch someone else do it and then detail it? And I was like, yeah. They're like, okay. Like, it worked, didn't it? They're like, yeah, it worked. I was like, I don't pay attention. Come on, everyone knows that. For like my
producer Bo here, I'm really trying to get him into jiu-jitsu. He hasn't taken me up on my offers. I told him I want him to be my first white belt. When you're talking about him, we're talking about details and moves, and in the back of my mind, I'm saying it's such a freaking amazing martial art that it's always evolving. Like, there's never going to be a time where you'd be like, okay, so I've done all the techniques. Let me, now I'm done. I've learned I've learned all of the jujitsu. That just doesn't exist in this world. No. It is just, again, if you follow any jujitsu competitor, all of a sudden somebody puts out and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even know that was there. How did he do that? It always just, it just blows my mind that it's such an ever evolving martial art. When we're biased, but it's the best martial art. Because it's always changing and there's something always new. Yep. Whenever I talk to somebody about the hiya, so you do jiu-jitsu hiya. Whenever I talk to that person, or this is the best. This morning, a girl that I used to go to school with, you follow everybody on Facebook, so 30 years later, you still see that person, and her son was getting his black belt today. I was like, oh, that's great. He's like 16. He's getting his black belt. And I'm like, oh, man, if she only knew. If she only knew that there was like so much more out there that he needs to learn. And then a little part of me goes, and I kind of got this put in my head from like other black belts, like they get angry at the false sense of security that black belt might give that kid, where it's like, you really don't understand that you don't know like the other half, or the ground side, right? It's like, okay, throw those kicks, and if somebody grabs you, you get that wrestler. I've had fights with wrestlers, like literal like fight. Oh shit, this guy's gonna freaking take me down. They have no clue what they're missing. So I go from just kind of like, look, 16-year-old with a black belt, whatever, to like that anger that I've heard from other black belts going, man, it's such a false sense of security. It's so sad that they do that. What are your thoughts on that? Like, you said you did some Muay Thai. I don't know if you've ever encountered, kind of, or tried any other martial arts, but what do you think about that? What's your take on that?
I definitely think that sucks, like that false sense of security, but I also like going off of false sense of security. My thing that I get more upset about is like the women's self-defense stuff that's like, oh, go to one class and like you can defend yourself. Like, come on.
Take your key, take your car key, and you put it right here. You're good.
Drives it like, it's one thing if you want to like show something, but like tell them that they still don't know anything, because I think that the same thing that it would do with that black belt is it gives that false sense of security. So then instead of trying to run, they're going to sit there and try and do something when they don't know anything, but they think that they do. And I think it ends up being more dangerous than if they just didn't know anything and didn't go to anything, because instead of having that like, okay, like you should probably run. They don't. They're like, oh, like I know something, like I can do something. And I think it it just makes it more dangerous instead of it actually being helpful, which is what I think the goal is. And I think that the intent behind it is good, but the execution and how it's done isn't.
You know, it's funny. I live in, we're in Florida, obviously. I told you that before, right? We're in Florida, and we always hear, like, the crazy Florida stories, like, Gator man walks into a convenience store with alligator, like, all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I hear a million stories about, I've never heard of a karate guy, like, in the news, karate black belt subdues suspect. It's always like jiu-jitsu instructor, subdues suspect, because that karate guy doesn't know how to subdue. He might know how to kick the guy and punch him, and maybe that guy doesn't know any better, but subduing him, holding him down, holding him for the police, grappling with him on the ground, it's always jiu-jitsu blue belt.
Karate guy annoys perp.
Yeah. So now let's go back to the knee a little bit. You're training. You said something before, like you said now 3 years in, the knee, is it, I'm doing air quotes here, is it better? Have you just learned to live with it and how to train with it? Or has it gotten better from where it was?
It's 100% gotten better from where it was. It definitely, it wasn't something that I could learn to just live with. If that was the case, like, I would have still gone and competed. Okay. It was really bad. Like,
no surgery though, right? You didn't do a surgery.
No surgery. Okay. Nope, just a ton of PT. Like, so much PT. And that is the one nice thing about ligaments, is unless they're fully torn for the most part, you can do a lot of physical therapy to hold everything in place. But for me, if you look from where I competed weight-wise to where I compete now, there's a significant difference. I went up in weight so that I was able to lift, actually, because my ligaments don't keep my knee together.
Muscles,
it's all
right?
muscle.
Yeah,
yep. It's all muscle. And it's the same thing. Like, I have some shoulder problems and some other injuries as well. Honestly, the only thing that keeps my entire body in place is the amount of muscle that I have. So I always have to be careful, like, dropping too low or too off. Like, if I'm going to drop low, doing it too often, because if I lose that muscle mass, it's not good for my body. My body, I'll start having knee problems again. I'll start having shoulder problems again. And everything just kind of falls apart. So a big thing was the physical therapy. And then also I just started lifting. I was lifting beforehand, but started lifting to actually get bigger and put on more muscle mass, because it's the only thing that keeps everything in place. Obviously, like, the physical therapy helped the knee and everything, but the muscle is what keeps it together. So then he has gotten better, and I've also learned kind of how to work around it, but it's gotten significantly better. When I first started training again with it, I couldn't even bring my knee to my butt. If you see me compete, like, super flexible, right? Yeah. I couldn't bring my knee to my butt. Like, sitting, it wouldn't. It was like a foot away from me at least. Ugh. And it hurt, and, like, it physically also wouldn't go in any closer than that. So, it was so messed up.
So if you went to that same doctor today, is it still in the condition where, like, okay, let's, if you said I want to opt for surgery, let's do the surgery, it's ready when you are? Like, your knee is ready for the surgery when you are? Or is it like, I'm never going to do it, I'm going to do it when I retire from competing? Like, where is that on your schedule, your life schedule? Like, yeah, I'm going to have to get it done eventually.
If I tear something else, then I'll go get surgery. Basically, if I tear any of my lateral ligaments or the ACL, then I'll probably have to go get it in. Mm-hmm. Even then, I could probably do some PT. But if I tear that meniscus and PCL tear, when you tear both of them together, then you pretty much have to have surgery. But my surgeon, actually, he refused to do surgery. He wouldn't do it. He's like, I'm not ruining your career. I'm sorry, you're 17. I'm not. He's like, if you go and you spend 6 to 8 months and it's still just as bad and you've actually done the work, then that's different. He's like, but I'm not doing surgery now. He's like, I'm not doing it. He's like, yeah, your knee's torn. He goes, if you were a normal person, I would do surgery on your knee tomorrow. He's like, but I'm not touching that knee. So even if I went back to that same surgeon, he would ask me, do you still want to be an athlete? If the answer was yes, he would tell me no.
So I brought that back up to go, so regular training schedule, regular competition schedule, you're moving forward full force, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what does your schedule look like for this year? I know you said you're coming to Miami. I think we might have gotten sidetracked. What's the schedule for this year? What are your major events?
I'll be doing a bunch of fight to wins, obviously. Hopefully another Who's Number One, and there's some other cards later on in the year that I'm hoping to get on. And then hopefully I'm hoping they're gonna have worlds of some kind so that I can do that gi or no gi. I'd actually prefer gi worlds, but whatever they have, doing the no gi pans. And then I think gi pans is in September, and I'll be doing that as well. And then I'm teaching a ton of seminars as well. I'd have to pull up my schedule to tell you those because I'm teaching a lot.
So where does ADCC fit into that? Are there any travel restrictions? That's on for this year?
I don't think ADCC is until next year.
Well, when do the trials happen? When do they start the trials? Is that around September? For the next ADCC?
Women can only compete the second trials.
Okay.
They don't get to compete the first one. So normally the first trials is for the US is around in November, and the second one will be around anywhere from like February to April. But if I get an invite, then I won't be competing the trials. But if I don't have an invite, I'll compete the trials.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. So I talked about, I love the UFC and I'll be watching tonight. Are you a fan of any other sports? Are you a UFC fan? Do you watch anything else? Or is it just all about jiu-jitsu?
I'll casually watch UFC sometimes if people have it on. I'm still a huge gymnastics fan. I don't think that'll ever go away.
Oh, yeah.
There's just something beautiful about that. But outside of that, I'm not like I'll watch wrestling occasionally, but not a lot. Outside of those, so occasionally MMA, jiu-jitsu, some wrestling, but not a lot. And then gymnastics, that's about it.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to drop in some listener questions as we're talking here a little bit. So our first question is from Aurora EB _BJJ on Instagram. It says, did you have many female training partners throughout your journey, or did you train primarily with men?
Oh, almost 100% with men. And even if I was training with women, all of my hard training was with men. Even to this day, like I do train with some girls. Only one of them is a black belt, and we have a brown belt as well that I'll train with. They're all lighter than me though, and I still, for the most part, I prefer to train with the guys.
Okay. All right. And then we've got another one from Dawn Marie _827. You actually just answered that. It says the preference between female and male partners. Okay. So that one's out. Hey Yo Slammo on Instagram asks. hey Yo Slammo. All right. When preparing for a fight, do you normally do you set up a camp? Do you have like a time frame, or is it always just ready kind of mindset? You're always ready to go if you get the call.
So that's kind of like if I have advance notice, obviously, like I would like to do that. But for the most part, like this fight, I think I had like 2 weeks. So it's just kind of one of those like, oh, I have this coming up. I just need to I don't train more necessarily. But the intensity and the like mindset behind the training will change a little bit. And then like keeping whatever I'm competing with that rule set in mind. So I wouldn't say that I like change everything. Even if I have a camp, my whole training doesn't change for it. If I have no-gi, because I train primarily gi, if it's no-gi, then I'll just make sure that I get like extra no-gi rounds in after gi class. But just the intensity and the mindset behind it changes more so than actually like, oh, now I'm going to start training more.
So do you think with that, the two questions that we got about, male and female training partners, a couple of questions I have about that. Do you feel that the sport is growing in a way that it is more inviting to women now? Do you feel like it's in a place where, a 12-year-old girl or even younger is saying, I want to do that? Do you think we're in that place yet?
No, I definitely think so. The kids program that we have, we actually, not the one that I teach because I teach the younger kids, the older kids, I think it's either even or there might even be more girls that train than there are boys that train. So I definitely think it is. But I think in general, if you look at most sports, women's sports is always behind men's. That's how it's always been like that with every sport. You want to look like, I think it's just because they're newer that jiu-jitsu and like MMA are getting more of like oh man, like women's is so far behind, whatever. It's normal for it to be like that. If you look at any sports, even like basketball and stuff like that, like women's has always been a little bit further behind the men's. And I think it's primarily just because it's not really open, not necessarily opened up to women before that, but women just kind of start it later. I think they just kind of sit on the sidelines and watch it first, and it takes a couple people that are comfortable just training with all guys, not even necessarily just in jiu-jitsu, but in sports in general, to then get comfortable to start doing that, and then we'll slowly bring in other women.
I think,
but no, I definitely get to that point.
UFC is a huge example of that, where Dana White used to say, "I'll never have a woman fight in the UFC," and then all of a sudden, boom! Again, we were talking with Kendall earlier today on the previous podcast, and I was like, I'm more interested in the women fighting tonight than the men fighting. The Rose Namajunas, one of my favorite fighters to watch. I just think she's the incredible badass. That's like the fight that I'm tuning in to watch. And the other one, I mean, I'm a fan and I want to see the other ones. But when I think about this card, I'm just like, oh, Rose is fighting tonight. Like that's just the way it's been. And I've said it a million times. Sometimes the women fights are just way better. I'd say on a 75% of the time, the women fights are the ones that stick out to me on any of the cards that I watch. But go ahead.
No, I definitely think women fights, if they don't train like they should, or they're kind of like nervous about it, they can either be the most boring fights ever, or I think they're the most exciting, because when you actually get women out there that actually want to go and like fight, there's just something extra behind it. Like guys are going out, for the most part, they're going out to fight, to just like, I'm just trying to win this fight. There's something extra when you get women that are actually like fighting, that there's just, I would say, like an extra fire behind it that you don't really get so much with the men.
I think they feel like they have to prove something.
Yeah.
They're they want to earn that spot.
Yep.
I don't know if it diminishes it when I say they have something to prove, because I don't think they have anything to prove anymore. When I'm talking about UFC anyway, I don't feel like they have anything to prove. They've proven themselves. But I think that they feel like they can't have an average fight like a guy can have an average fight. Like you said,
I 100%
he just
agree.
wants to win. He wants to, get another, move up in the ranking.
Yeah, right. No big deal. Whatever. If women does that, it's like, oh, women's fights are boring.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. It's like, you know what? You feel like you're not going to get invited back, or it's like, oh well, let's get rid of that weight class because there's nobody good in it anymore. But and in the beginning, kind of the UFC was like that for guys though too. Say in the beginning, in the beginning of a fighter's journey, when they first get that, like they're fighting injured, they're freaking eyeballs going to pop out of the head, and they're still in there fighting and mixing it up. But once you get to, okay, you got a belt or you're a top 3 contender, all of a sudden it's a little bit more about the money and, contract negotiations, and I'm not going to fight there and I'm not going to fight him. Then all that creeps in. But again, for women, for me, just I'm so happy that they're in the UFC, because I think some of those fights have been some of my favorites, But
no, I definitely agree.
Yeah. So okay, we kind of asked you, do you watch any other sports? But we have Damien the Stud is his Instagram name. Damien_the_stud. He says, besides jiu-jitsu, is there anything else that you're passionate about? Are you crocheting sweaters in your downtime?
I do.
You crochet? Yeah.
Shout out! Did we just lose all the crocheting jiu-jitsu fans?
I do socks, sweaters.
Everybody
tuned out.
No, for the most part, all I do is train and lift, because that's all the time I have for. But last time I was in Puerto Rico, I was able to actually go surfing. Had so much fun surfing. If I get another chance to do that, I'll definitely be surfing. Yeah. And then I'm definitely, granted, I don't get to do it that much, but I love riding horses. Okay. But it's definitely not something I get to do all the time. For the most part, my day just consists of training and then relaxing if I can, and lifting.
So how was that? I was very jealous seeing those pictures of you in Puerto Rico. I mentioned to you, I wrote to you in a message. I was like, I used to go to Puerto Rico. I'm New Yorican. We went to, as far back as I can remember, we went every either Christmas or summer, every single year, as far like probably till I was 16. So I'm talking like little kid, toddler, all the way through. And some of my best memories in my life are just being in Puerto Rico, just hanging out at my grandmother's house. We used to catch little lizards with a long piece of grass. We used to catch them by the neck, like just little things like that. So some of my best memories. What did you, what was your favorite part of Puerto Rico when you went? Because did you go for a wedding?
No, so I was in Alaska for a wedding.
Okay.
I went to Puerto Rico for a getaway that I was actually teaching
Okay.
at.
Oh, okay. So you got to do a seminar?
Yeah, I taught a class when I was there,
okay.
but it worked for me. It worked for me. I get to go to Puerto Rico and hang out. I get to teach a class. That's all I got to do. Perfect for me.
Did you have a good time? You stayed there for a while?
Oh man, I was there for about 4 or 5 days, so I wasn't there very long.
Okay.
But I had an amazing time. Went to the waterfalls there. Was able to go surfing when we were there. Went out on a boat and like jump off in the ocean. I had a ton of fun. I might be going back in August. Fingers crossed.
There you go.
You got. But I had a really good time out there. Oh, anything that's like beach and just that whole vibe, like I love that. But I had a really good time out in Puerto Rico, and I'm really glad I was able to go, and I'm hoping I'll get to go back. So, but it was great.
There was a little in the back of my mind. I'm like, if I see this girl training with Gordon Ryan, I'm gonna be so freaking jealous. You hear Puerto Rico, you hear jiu-jitsu in Puerto Rico in the same sentence, and now it's Gordon Ryan and the Down at Her Death Squad. You know, right? I'm like, she gonna be showing up in some training videos. You know, I know they would like. No, not a fan.
Not this time. I will probably next time. I think when I go in August, I'll probably train there.
Oh, cool.
But this time I wasn't able to.
Have you ever trained with them before?
No, I haven't. I've seen them at competitions. They're always really nice. I always talk to them at like the Who's Number One events and stuff like that. So it'd be great to go out there and train with them. But where we were staying, it was a couple hours away.
Okay.
And it was because it was the getaway. They had everything kind of set up. So it was more like I'm there and I got to just kind of go along with everything, which I'm not going to lie is a little nice, especially when you have to like plan everything. But no, people were definitely asking, like, oh, are you going to go train with Gordon Ryan and them? I was like, not this time. Like maybe next time I'll go a couple days early and then I'll go train out there with them. So.
All right. We've got one more question from a listener. They said, ask Elisabeth, who wins in a sub-only fight, Elizabeth Clay or Ronda Rousey?
In submission only?
In a sub-only fight.
She does MMA and judo. Like that's not a fair comparison.
So these guys that sent me this gave me the background. There was a CIES MMA. He said that you would laugh at that. I guess you didn't. He said we asked her that at a seminar. He goes, we were just messing with her.
No, they did. They did ask me that.
He goes, we were totally joking with her. He goes, but ask her. He's like, she'll know it was us. So yeah, that was just a bullshit question.
No, you asked her.
She's like, who is this? What is this a WWE podcast?
No, they asked me this. We were literally out at dinner, and they're asking. I'm like, who asked that?
Did you see her face post? She's like, what the hell is this guy asking me? What? She doesn't. He gave me the whole history of it too in a message. He's like, listen,
really?
yeah, he did. He totally set it up.
Otherwise, he's probably like, you're gonna ignore it. He's like, here's the whole reason.
I probably would have. I was just like, I'm like, really? And then he gave me the explanation, and I'm like, okay, let me see if I can get it to laugh.
You're like, okay, I'll mess with her.
All right, so let's hit our speed round here. Got about. Man, it used to be 4 questions. I have 11 now. Okay, so some of these are fast. You can elaborate if you want. No, I call it a speed round, but whatever. Okay, so preference, gi or no gi?
Both. It depends on the time. Like sometimes I love gi, and sometimes I only want no gi.
I get that. That's a very common answer. I don't think anybody ever goes, yeah, no gi. I hate the gi. So you're welterweight champ. It's gi. Is it gi?
Yeah,
in the gi. Okay, all right. What's your go-to sub?
In the gi, probably omoplata. That's what I would say. And then in no gi, probably guillotine.
Okay. So, takedown or pull guard? I think we know this because of the knee.
Pull guard.
Yeah, well, you got to pull guard. Favorite competitor to watch?
I don't watch jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, we went through that too. No, like, oh God, I gotta watch that match. No one. Oh wow.
No, there's no one. Teammates. They're teammates. That's about it.
Okay, that counts. All right. Toughest match ever.
Every match is hard in its own way, like whether mentally or physically or where I was at. Like I don't think I could pull one match that was like my toughest ever.
Okay. All right. Other than achieving the rank of black belt, what is your ultimate goal in the world of jiu-jitsu? That's a thinker.
ADCC.
ADCC champ?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. What would you be doing if you hadn't have found jiu-jitsu? Where would you be in your life? What job would you be doing? Where would you be?
Probably somewhere on a ranch in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Your family was, or was it your father was in the oil business? Is what you said earlier, right?
So he worked for ConocoPhillips, but he was a tech guy.
Okay. All right. Like I could see you out there like on an oil rig when you said, ranch. I'm such a New Yorker. Ranch. I'm like ranch, oil rigs, right? And horses. So, that's
the moo.
Right. I'm an idiot.
Cows. Exactly. There you go.
What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you in a competition or even just on the mat in the gym?
Having someone tap, the ref stopped the match completely, stand us back up. The girl said she didn't tap and they restarted us.
Really?
Vegas Open 2018. I was pissed. I ripped the girl's shoulder afterwards because I was so mad.
I was just going to say.
And it wasn't one of those. Oh, my phone.
It's okay.
Wow. Okay, I'm back.
No worries.
There we go. No, literally I had a wrist lock. She tapped. And like verbally tapped too. It wasn't one of those like, when somebody taps, but you're like, maybe they were grabbing your pants.
Yeah.
Verbally tapped, loud. People off the side heard it. Ref stopped it, stood us back up, and she's, I didn't tap. You verbal tapped the tap. He restarted us in closed guard, which is where we were when she tapped. I think less than 15 seconds later, I was finishing her in omoplata, and he might have had to pull my knee back because I was so mad.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was purple, I think. Yeah, it was purple.
Do they call that? I don't want to get any flack for this. They call it the Brazilian tap, right? When like they just like kind of tap you once. No, I was just grabbing the gas. I was just grabbing. What do you? I didn't tap. I was just grabbing, right? All right. What is? It's okay if you don't have one. Not everybody does. What's your biggest regret as it relates to jiu-jitsu?
I don't know that I have one because like I have things that like I shouldn't have competed because I was injured, but I learned from that. So I don't think I would say anything, but I think all of them have been like learning experiences.
Okay. All right. Good enough. And okay, this is our last one. I always say this is the most important question that you're ever going to answer on this podcast. No, on this podcast or in your jiu-jitsu journeys. This is it.
Question.
This is
like
this
no
is,
other.
Yeah. You're going to be changing
all of it. This is the most important.
You're changing. You're going to change. People are going to hear this answer. They're going to change lives today. Do you or do you not wash your gi belt?
I do.
Boom.
You dirty bastards out there. Team wash your belt. There you go.
There you go. Yep.
So we've always had a big argument on the show. All but one, our newest, I think Miguel is the only one that does admit he washed his belt. I started this podcast with 4 other people. Nobody washed their belt and looked at me like I was crazy for telling them I pretty much washed it like every other training session. And
I don't
now,
wash it all the time. I would say definitely like it doesn't get washed as much, but it's definitely one of those that I'll like. So you look at it and you're like, it's getting washed.
Yeah, no.
I'm not like, it's not an everyday thing. Because I think some people do that. It's a little piece of fabric. It's not getting that sweaty. And half the time, let's be real, it sits off on the side because it comes off.
Yeah.
So I don't wash it like all the time, but definitely sometimes I'm like, it needs to be washed. So I go wash it.
One of Raul, one of our first co-hosts said, he's like, why do you need to wash it? It comes off after the first like 20 seconds of rolling, so it doesn't even get any sweat on it.
It's not all the time, honestly. I don't know how often I know I wash it, but I don't know how much. It comes off all the time, man. And half the time, like, I'm taking it off, but I do wash it. There are definitely some people that I'm like, you've never washed that. That white belt's turning gray.
I get that some people, the most common reply is, I want it to be worn, like get worn out because of the training and show that training versus I don't want it to be worn out because of the washing machine. All right. I get that, but I kind of say, but isn't that a little ego driven? Like, I got to show that it's a piece of fabric. It doesn't hold any, it doesn't hold.
You can also,
your
if you don't wash it every day, it's not going to fade it that much. If you only wash it like occasionally, especially because it's not getting as much sweat, it's not going to fade it that much. Now, if you're washing it every day, I've definitely known that guy that would like wash it extra on purpose, and I'm like,
Oh,
It doesn't get that much sweat in it. You are being extra right now, trying to be really warm with that belt.
you just got promoted last week. It already looks like it's
Bro.
gray.
Honestly, one of the guys got promoted like a month later, and I was like, dude, that you don't even train that much, homie. What are you doing with that belt?
My coach, he was like, I don't wash it. I never wash my belt. It looks like this. His wife comes and tells me, like, she's like, I threw it in the wash last week. That thing smelled so bad. I had to throw it in the wash. I'm like, God, gotcha. All right, Elisabeth, thank you so much for doing this. We're gonna let you run. We'll do like our little outro here. We're not gonna keep you on. Any sponsors that you want to shout out? This is your time.
Perry Athletics, you guys should go check them out. They've got really nice stuff. If you want 20% off, you can use my discount at Clay20. Zebra mats, as always. They've been with me since I was, I think I was 16.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
We need some mats for the studio. Just right, Bo. We're gonna turn the living room into a jiu-jitsu studio. If I can get Bo to bite on training, we're gonna need some mats here at the studio. Just kidding.
Let's go. You got to start training.
His face is over there going, eh. All right. Again, thank you very much. Stick around for just 1 second. Thank you very much for doing this. Everybody stick around. We'll be right back. All right, everybody. Thank you for sticking around. That was great, Bo.
Yep.
Very cool. Very talented competitor.
I have a feeling
Elisabeth
she's super tough. Like she'd throw you around.
She's good at what she does. I'm very intrigued and kind of like taken back by like having an injury like that. What she explained to
she's
just
20.
continue to here. I guess she bounced. I remember bouncing back at that age.
Dude, 20 and have a wrecked knee already.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It just I can't.
But I mean, she's fierce though. I mean, she's.
Yeah, when she's talking about just like, I know what I just went through, and my injury wasn't anything even close to that.
Yeah,
and it's just like it still bothers me.
She's like, her knee is done.
Just gotta suck it up.
Her knee is finished.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Check out our Jiu-Jitsu Foundation GoFundMe link in the description here. We are we're very, very close to awarding our first veteran. It might be a veteran or first responder 1-year scholarship. All right. So it's coming soon. Anything you can do to help is only going to help us get that out quicker. You can donate. Just go to @JJD Dummies on Instagram. Hit the link in our bio. You'll see the GoFundMe and some other ways that you can support the show. If you donate $50 or $100 or whatever, if you donate at least $50, you'll get a free embroidered belt from Flow and Roll or a mug from the podcast store. That's really for every $50 you donate. So donate what you can. We very much appreciate it. It'll help us get out that scholarship a little faster. All right. Shout out to our podcast patrons, including gym sponsor Carlson Gracie in Winter Haven, Florida, cgwinterhaven.com, and @CarlsonGracie_Winter Haven on Instagram. Check them out. Shout out to Carlson Gracie in Broward County in North Lauderdale, Florida. CarlsonGracieBrowardCounty.com, @CarlsonGracie Broward County on Instagram. John Way Martial Arts, who was a guest on the show. Yeah, we had a good time with him. JohnWayMartialArts.com and @JohnWayMartialArts on Instagram. All right, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Podcast patrons include Robert Walker, Frank House, Wolsey Rivera, Boa Athletics. You can check them out on IG @BOA_athletics. Michael Pixley Jr., Jason Smiley, Britt Tavar, James Fisher, CJ Carroll, Mission 22, Chuck Reddoor, and Roberto Santiago. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit us at patreon.com/Jiu-Jitsu Dummies. Join and you're automatically entered to win up to $100 in Jiu-Jitsu gear every single month. We do one drawing of $100 or more. Tap Cancer Out. We did a giveaway for February.
Yep.
We have a Flow and Roll going out for March and April. Still not sure what we're going to give away, but we'll be giving away, again, at least $100 either from our podcast store, Fight Back CBD, a gi, some gear. We also add in anyone who submitted questions that we used on the show. So all the questions that we answered today, all of those were all from Instagram. All of those Instagram profiles will be added to the drawing as well. So 2 ways to enter. All right. Check out the podcast store at jiujitsudummies.shop. 15% off with code JJD. We've got tees, rash guards, backpacks, coffee mugs, free shipping on orders over $50. Okay, guys? We want to thank the We Defy Foundation for all the support and really all they do for veterans in the jiu-jitsu community. For those of you who have been following the show, you know that they provide therapeutic relief to disabled combat veterans through jiu-jitsu. You can check them out at We Defy Foundation on Instagram, and you can donate anytime at wedefyfoundation.org. They've got a really cool Memorial Day thing going. Let's go to their Instagram, check it out. I'm probably not going to do it justice, but you can enter, donate some money, get a free tea. There's a workout program. There's lots of cool things that they're doing for Memorial Day. Big shout out to Justin at Fightback CBD. Thank you so much for all your support. You get 20% off your CBD order at fightbackcbd.com with code JJD. And as always, you can support us or really support the Jiu Jitsu Dummies Foundation on Amazon Smile. Check out our Instagram. We're always posting about it. Just go to your Amazon profile, click on the settings. It'll take you to a place where you can just update or donate to the foundation of your choice or the nonprofit of your choice. You just have to toggle that switch that changes it over to Amazon Smile. Nothing changes about your Amazon experience. They just donate like 0.05% of your purchase price to the foundation every time you order. Okay? So, got anything, Bo? You good?
I'm beautiful.
You beautiful?
Except not in person.
Yeah.
On the phone, I'm beautiful.
Right. You can check me out at Uncle Milty BJJ on IG. Thank you for watching and listening, everybody. We'll see you next time. Oos.
Woo.